So, today I want to mess more again with a little palette knife that I got. See over here. Pretty small, pretty pointy, but has a rounded edge, flatter, more flexible than when I was messing around with using the what do you call it? Using the X-Acto blade. So what I did yesterday is what you can see here, and these two images were using blue because the blue has like a pretty strong difference in pigmentation. It gets transparent pretty quick. So I might try messing with, instead of having both sides visible, filling out the space. So a transitional one to having a textured blue something or other, and then just every frame has the textured blue in the background, so it's a little bit more chaotic and such. I think it might be interesting, or trying it. Let me see what it looks like with like a red. I like the blue. I've done a lot more red than blue. Maybe I will just stick with the blue, but make it so it's constant or a more or less solid background going on, as opposed to having it be, oh, that's why. I was like, why is it got more fuzz happening? It's because I did a record, I did the live a couple days ago of the audio, and I needed to bring in the treble, but I turned down the high-end frequencies when I'm just streaming from, or doing music from the tape player, because it gets a lot of hiss. Okay, so plan is to do a transitional thing that just builds up to where it's solid blue but applied with the palette knife. That looks weird on screen. I'm just dropping it, and it has enough spring on the front end of it to bounce a little. Yeah, transition, and then do one where it's just solid across the back. That's my plan. Now it has to dry. But while it's drying, I can work on the first bit of the next one. I did not need to do this on transparency, and I'm only now really thinking about it. Because if this is more or less just covering the full space, it'll get a little bit varied of a background, but there aren't going to be like shadows cast, and I can't see through this like super clearly for referencing the stuff behind it, like the markers. This is going to be done a little bit more on intuition than the last few loops that I've made. Okay, now that has to dry. I'm gonna see how dry this other one is. Mostly dry. Just a couple spots. I think it's okay to go ahead and scan it. Gotta do some file prep stuff. This will take a little bit to dry because it's applied heavier in some bits and spots. Do a Photoshop open, waiting for this to scan, and then wait while that's doing that bit. Let me I'm opening up a file, you can't see it right now, from yesterday, so that I can save it, a duplicate with the guides and such, and then from there put in the new scans once they are done. Go ahead and pull up Photoshop. So this is just my alignment thing, that finished scanning. I'll do a little bit of editing with it. But the piece of paper that's behind the transparencies that follow or aligns with this grid, and that's how I save things out as individual files, is a weird workaround that is not typical for how people deal with Photoshop and such. So there's the thing I just scanned. Need to align it. So go to the alignment marks I put in the corners. Make sure that everything's good. More important ones are the long bits because the length is... There's a longer distance between, the longer the distance, the more accurate it'll be between the two of them. Because if you have 2 points that are very close together and you draw a line through them, there's a little bit, if there are any variations in like where you place it, the line going through, it'll be much more exaggerated. It's like if you're holding a stick from far ends, any variation in your placement is not going to adjust the direction of the stick that much, but as you get closer and you turn, the angle gets more pronounced. Then I need to adjust the size. Save it as a new file so I have it to reference. And then I'll copy it into this document here. And you can see how it aligns to those different placements. Still have some time before this is going to be dry, so I'm going to set it aside and just save out the animation of what I just did on a little loop. also make it so I have the folders prepped for the next stage of things. Is that all of it? No, I did the same thing that I did last time. And I did selected slices, not user slices. So let's do this again. All user slices. So you can't see the window that I'm working in right now, but a while ago I had set up this document with a grid and created these slices. So you can see these little blue, like darker blue outlines. Those are all the slices that I selected, and there's 30 of them going across. Technically there's 59 because when you slice up a document in Photoshop, it fills in the rest of the spaces with slices. So automatically there is a slice that's like in between the various sections, so there's no unoccupied space, but yeah. Anyway, so I save out those. That guy's done. Let's load files into stack and select the files that I just saved out, which are the sliced up stills that I painted that now I'll have a digital isolated copy of those individual little spots. And I have custom made action that goes through and edits all of these things. When I import a 30 frame file, that's 30 layers. It, as a default of the sequence of events, that's create frame animation, make frames from layers. And then it's I forget what all happens, but or in what order, but it reverses the layers, changes the speed, adjusts the size of the images, and yeah. This is meant to just be sort of a loose average of increasing the amount of blue that's present. So now I'm going to save this out as an animated GIF so you can just see a little bit of what's happening. It'll play back better as an animated GIF in OBS than it does as animation preview in Photoshop. Photoshop, the frame rate, the playback speed is weird. Let's drop this down to 32, see if I get it to like 7 megabytes. It's a longer animation because it loops forward and back, because it's not, or it goes forward and then reverses. Because most of the loops that I'm making are 30 frames long because they move towards the beginning. So it's going like this, where this animation is going forward and back, so it has about twice as many frames because it repeats almost all of them. I just realized that these all are spelled incorrectly, all the file names. So I'm going to rectify that in just a moment. Spelled palette wrong. So I just need to come in and rename some stuff. This palette only has one L, but two T's. Now I can rename this. Open it. Wait, I gotta rename the parent folder. And then image capture, I need to change the location because now this folder doesn't exist. So I changed the name slightly. Now I can open the file. That's gonna push me to okay. And now I can pull up the transitional animation bit. And there you go. It just sort of builds up and then fades away. Because the transition is meant to be just the build up. But it functions a little bit differently when it's this one is back and forth. It goes from A to B and back to A, then to B, then to A, then to it's just going back and forth. Whereas something like this one starts at point A, then goes around back to point A. So it'll have a different sort of functionality later on. I think it's about dry enough to where I can still got some wet bits. I give this just a little bit, a little longer. Mostly that, and yeah, it's mostly that one spot. Not too much to go on about right now because I'm just waiting. Off my little palette, turn off Photoshop. the whiteout doesn't come off as cleanly as the acrylic paint. I don't know what's best to get the whiteout off. I have some Citrusolve, which will help dissolve some stuff, but I'm gonna check to see how dry this thing is. Okay, should be able to scan now. Scanning. Now I get to decide what color next. I kind of want to do white. I'm gonna do white. Okay, more dry time. It'll be a bit. This white is put on pretty thick, which I want, but it also will affect the dry time because it is thicker. Some nice shapes. It's gonna be a while. Since it'll be a while, I'll go ahead and save this out and make a GIF of it. Bum, bum, bum. Bum, bum, bum. This is just a texture that'll be pretty chaotic because it's just randomly placed bits and bobs. And here's that pure texture sort of chaos. It's fun to get up close on it. Still waiting on this to dry. It'll take its time. But I do want to try getting the other red that I have and using the palette knife on top of the white and the blue and just see how it behaves. I'm gonna see if fanning this helps at all. Should be dry enough to at least scan the reverse side pretty soon. going to scan the reverse side. and some more. Red. Thank you for watching, Yamina. Now we get to wait for this to dry. But you can watch, or I can show the more interesting next bit. This is a slower way to work because I'm putting the paint on thicker, so it's takes longer for everything to dry. But where's this one? So now there's a much greater contrast of the white and the blue than when it's blue on the front, white on the back. Now it's white on the front, blue on the back. I'm curious about like how well the animation is conveyed with the more chaotic textural elements, the inconsistency of the paint being applied, and whether or not it's too much. It'll be interesting in the context of a larger piece, but it might be a lot for a sustained sequence. Hope it is one of your favorites. There's also just me being impatient with how long it takes for these to dry when the paint is thicker. Just the file size to 9,000 by 12,000 so that it fits onto the grid that I have. And then rotate this image. You have any other questions, Yamina? Because I got time right now. I need to find that. That's why it's taking longer. Let's copy, save this. Has its own thing. And so, like, if you're looking at the comparison of just this one particular still, you can see the white on the reverse and then the lack of white in this one. But there's a much stronger contrast, and the texture of the blue is gone, but the texture of the white, the peaks and valleys and such, is very much there. So that one's saved. Can close that. Waiting for the red to dry. Do I want to do yellow? The yellow is not very opaque, but maybe that's part of the appeal. And ideally, I don't want this to be like patriotic colors, because it is right now for the painted section, that physical thing. Red, white, and blue. As I like the colors red, white, and blue. Together, I get a different context for it all. So, since this is going to take a minute to dry, I'm going to go ahead and save out these individual sections as their own image files. Just gonna go slow. I don't think I'm going to do front and back for all of these, but for the first couple, it's a thing. I wanted to have the texture of the blue on its own, but then after that, you're not going to see really anything through the blue from the backside. Stills, make a new one, O2 dash white. White. Save those out, and then I'll have a thing that you can preview the animation. Files, scripts, load files into stack. Browse. All documents, select all these, load them in. use my recorded actions thing, and let's save this out as a GIF, not as a JPEG. I was like, I should have red, but it shouldn't because this isn't the red one yet. It's just white and blue. And jump out here to GIFs, and this is O2 white. This is O3 white. I might need to change the name of the folder that I just saved out, because I think I saved it as O2 and it really should be O3, which doesn't matter to you watching, but just for me to be aware of. So here's the blue on its own, and let's get the white in the mix. This has some nice texture in it. If everything is chaotic, it makes enough sense. Where the movement is a consistency, a thing that sort of keeps you through. Because of how long this takes to dry, I might end up just doing like one more color, maybe two. I'll see how it looks with some yellow in the mix. Once this has had a little bit longer of a chance to dry. If I do yellow, then it seems more like a set of primaries than anything more nationalistic. Textures are nice there. I'll pull up, now that that's been playing for a second, open Photoshop back up and then get tighter in on some of the textures. Don't need to save that. You can see some odd things that take place, like this gray spot right here. Let me get a new layer, and red is easy enough. This gray spot right here, that's the result of the paint being flush against the scanner bed. So the physical element of that is if the scanner bed is right here and the paint has a little bit of texture that pokes up and then dips back down, when there's pressure coming down against the back of it, you end up with a weirdly flat section. And that's what is happening right along here. And it's not intuitive. It's a weird thing. Yeah, you have it up here. It's not where the paint is darker, it's where it's flat against the, like it has pressure against it, against the surface of the glass in the scanner. And it's not noticeable in the animation, but it pops up here and there. It's an interesting texture sort of thing happening, and the shadows, you can see on the right over here that it's a bit darker along this side than it is along this side, and that's because the white paint is opaque and casts a shadow towards its right, and so it darkens this whole area right in here. That is not as dark for the blue. Also, the blue is reversed. It's flipped the opposite direction, so the shadow's going in the opposite way on this section. You also get a different view on the texture because it's against a very flat surface. So there are no there's very little texture to the plastic, or variance in the texture. It's smooth, where on paper it would grip onto the edges, and at this scale, because it's larger than life, because it's scanned at 1200 dpi, the texture would be pretty present. And so it's like painting on glass, but not exactly. Yeah, I can mess with not waiting for it to dry. I would want to practice that a little bit because I get one chance at placing it, and depending on the thickness, it would spread out more. And for some of these, not for this one, I'm scanning both the front and back. I also would have to clean my scanner. Oh, and use film to protect the scanner. I've gotten paint directly on scanners before, or painted onto the scanner bed. There is a risk if you're using film on the scanner itself, like putting any sort of something between what you're scanning and the glass, is that the depth of field is very thin, very narrow, so it'll get out of focus very quickly. It's not super visible here, but even with like the thickness of paint, the stuff that's closer to the scanner bed is going to be crisp, and the stuff that's a little further back will not be. It's still wet. Yeah, I've got like a scraping razor thing that you can use like for cleaning glass, tile, that sort of deal, or getting paint off of a surface, getting stickers, vinyl, whatever. I've got that next to my scanner bed. One of these guys. Here, let me turn on Photoshop for a sec. One of these guys that you just click out the razor blade and you can clean off the glass, and you can see there's a little bit of paint on there. Maybe you can't really see it, but yeah, there you go. Because I got paint on the scanner. So every time that I scan, I have to double check, because it's the sort of thing that's easy to miss. And I have missed before, and it becomes part of it. Really just right about here that there's some obviously not dry, and then probably right here, but I do like the thickness of the paint in those spots. You can see where I've tested on my gloves as to whether or not something's wet or not, because I touch it and then drag it. So like, this is out of frame, I think. So, obviously, more right there, but see, they're still red, so it's not dry. Because it's hard to feel through the glove if it's wetter. The paint is thick right along this ridge, right along here, right along here. It's hard to tell from the camera, but those are some of the thicker spots right here. There's not really a reason that this needs to be on transparency, but it is. You get a little bit of the shadow, but because the background is more or less filled in, it doesn't become, it's not a necessary thing to have used. Boop, boop, boop. What does this look like from the back? It's kind of interesting how much darker the blue is. I do art for work stuff. These get me a little bit of money, not much, but any amount's helpful. Mostly I do like brand work, and just odds and ends of things, but sponsored things every now and again, and those I just do either before or after I'm doing streams, or if it gets to be too much, then I skip a stream or two, or I work on the weekend. Ad work. This isn't the most lucrative form of animation, but I'm trying to build up to have more on YouTube, so that's a possible revenue stream. And so kept up with this for like a month on YouTube specifically, and growing little by little. It's a sort of thing that I would hope eventually it might function as something where someone puts on just like a playlist of these live streams, because I have one available, and that racks up time and view amount and such. Because right now it's just building to the point where I can monetize, because currently I can't on YouTube. Have to get 1,000+ followers and have 4,000 yearly watch hours, and I am almost to the 1,000 followers, but a ways away for the 4,000 watch hours, and it seemed like this was a better way to push towards that, is to have live streams and have them be a little bit more regular, and sort of encourage people to do it twofold. Live, having that appeal, and then also having it just available to watch on its own as a stream. And then it's just like, if you watch one, then you got like 2 hours of time. And if there's a few people who do that, it adds up pretty quick. I'm gonna scan the back side of this actually, because that purple that you can see where the red and blue really overlap thicker, I think it's interesting. I also get very little amount of money from music stuff. Like, it's negligible, but If you like the music in the background, you can stream various things on Spotify and Spots. That's some nice purple tones. Soft. That tape's over. another tape. This is the first one. So it's got the slower ones that are better for background music if I were more actively working. But this is a more passive process because it's wait time. While I'm waiting for that to scan, I can prep. I store all of these stills in manila folders in a filing cabinet. This is a Christmas gift that I requested. It's a date stamp, because I date things a lot. This is part of a long form thing that's called 120, and this is palette knife 02 to plastic sheets. Okay, yellow. Zach gets to drive for a while. For a while. Saving this. Now let's save out the individual bits because I want to see what this looks like animated. This is 5 red. the amount of texture in these and the size of them gives the different shapes a little bit more of a sense of personality, which is nice. Like, it looks like it's two different creatures moving around, as opposed to, like, this doesn't feel like different creatures moving around, but this does. And I'm not entirely sure why. It might be that they're larger and they stay in frame for more time and they seem like they're reacting to one another. I don't know. You see fish that is probably helped by the fact that it looks like water behind it because of the blue. It also doesn't look as much like a weird patriotic thing that I was worried about it. I think another thing that helps with it is with a palette knife, there's sort of a direction to sort of the front and the back. Because it pulls away, so there's like a fishes, I forget, there's like some general rule about what's the right time to say fish versus fishes, and like there are a bunch of fish there, but if you say a bunch of fishes, I think it's meant to imply that it's different like species of fish, different kinds of fish. Like if you had a bunch of goldfish and a bunch of piranhas, you'd say, look at all those fishes. But if it were just a bunch of goldfish, you'd be like, look at all those fish. Because fishes is like saying, or you'd have multiple. Like, I don't know why piranhas, goldfish, koi, salmon, not living in the same spot. But look at all those fishes, saying that like, fishes is kinds of fishes, yes, okay. Well, these are probably fishes, because they're different colors. Or they could be the same species and just be different colors. Waiting on this yellow to dry a bit. It's probably also helped by the fact that, to make them look like it's got a personality, is that it's fewer things in the frame. It's just two things moving. And it feels kind of like where they exit, that they could then go out of frame and come back in. So like the red going up and around. I don't know how best to illustrate this. Going up and around, and then going here. It feels like it could also go through the exit and up. Dun, dun. I put the yellow on a little bit thicker because it's not quite as opaque on its own. So it might take a minute to dry. Waiting. In the past, when I've painted on paper, I'm fine using like a little heat gun to help expedite the drying process, but it would warp the plastic if I'm not careful about it. So, just fanning it. I'm also more cautious about the paint because I don't have much foam core and I don't want to go buy more. It's not prohibitively expensive, but I don't want to have to carry it. It's annoying to carry because it's rigid, and if it's windy at all, it will catch a lot of wind, and then you just feel like you look dumb on the street. Because maybe you do a little bit, I don't know. And I use a foam core behind the plastic when I scan it so that the background is slightly raised off of the surface. But I got paint on one of them, and I realized now I can probably just put another piece of paper on top of it. I just need the flat, rigid element of the foam core. Hear it on the mic. I'm going to scan the backside. Waiting for it to scan. backside of this one makes me think of two things. One, when you get excited to mix colors and you don't know that they will get to be neutral browns and very dull very quickly. When like you're a little kid messing with painting stuff, it also makes me think of multicolored crayons that are like red, yellow, blue, green, purple, like it's all mixed in, and you're like, this is gonna look great, and then you start coloring with it, and it's just like a brown, disappointing, gray mess. But you have little pockets of the brightness that come around. That is where it moved. There's going to be a couple spots of that. Yeah. Squish. there you go. Let's compare the 4 of them. I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a lot to look at once. A slightly clearer option. There you go. I have some other versions of the frames that have the reverse side, but I think that these go better in order than having it go front back, since there's such a stark contrast between what the front and the back appear like. Here's the just loading in of the blue. I think the translucency also kind of makes it look like a fish. Anyway, there you go with animation that I made using acrylic paint. This small, I think this is a number 6 is what it, I don't know what that means exactly, but small palette knife. It's from Liquitex. That was $6. Or maybe it was 8, something like, it was not too expensive. It was less than $10. And it's much nicer than the X-Acto blade that I was using, that you could feel was like gripping on the plastic. And a sheet of transparency, plastic transparency. I still need to wait for the yellow to dry completely before I put stuff away. So I'm just gonna leave it out, and that's also why I didn't take off my gloves, so I didn't absent-mindedly grab it, but it still needs to dry. Anyway, I'll do a spiel to this camera. If you want to watch this stream in full and be able to scrobble through it, see what's happening, and skip around to the places where it's more active, you can watch this and other streams here on YouTube. As soon as the live stream's over, it's available for watching as a DVR, is what the setting is set to on YouTube, digital video recording. If you want to follow me on other platforms, you can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Tumblr, Spotify, all of those places. I am Traceloops, TRACELOOPS. If you want to support me on Patreon, you can do so by going to patreon.com/Traceloops, where you will find recordings of older live streams, but specifically the main appeal is high-resolution versions of artwork that I create during streams, so you have access to the fuller res scans of what scanned today, the digital files of those. There's also a selection of tutorials, and then at higher tiers, new songs for me weekdays. At the highest tier, a monthly postcard for me with original artwork in the front, little message on the back, and a discount to my web store. Speaking of my web store, if you want to buy stuff from me, you can go to my web store, traceloops.com/store. If you want to purchase something and have it shipped outside of the US, you can email me, traceloops@traceloops.com. You can also email me with comments, concerns, questions, curiosities, commissions, etc., etc. It's Friday, and I'll do a little bit of process work on this to consolidate the animations into different formats for different platforms, but otherwise I won't be doing any work with this until Monday, and when Monday comes around, I'll do something similar. I gotta figure out if I want it to be another palette knife thing. I bought some spackle that I want to mess with, but I don't think being on stream is the best time for that. Maybe I'll try doing some version of something like this, mixing paint so that it's I'm actually using the palette knife like what it's intended to be used for. I don't know. I'll figure it out, but decent likelihood that it'll be something with paint and not too dissimilar from this. Maybe trying to resolve it a little bit more because this is like an introduction to using the palette knife for animation, and I feel like I can push it further or get somewhere else with it that takes advantage of it even more than this sort of thing. Anyway, plan on being back Monday, and appreciate you watching, and have a nice weekend. Adios. I realized I should fade stuff out more for the end of stream so it's not as jolting. Adios.